Need a little luxury in your life? That's why I recently treated myself to a staycation at the Inn at 500 Capital. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway, a special celebration, or just a break from routine, you're going to love their Four Diamond Boutique experience with gorgeous rooms, penthouses, and suites right in the heart of downtown Boise. You'll be greeted with a complimentary drink on arrival, have access to free shuttle service, and even your pet is welcome. And here's an insider tip: book more than one night and save with their weekend escape rate. Book your stay now at inat500.com. Today on CityCast Boise, lawmakers are pushing a bill that would regulate who can enter bathrooms and dorm rooms based on gender assigned at birth, with legal consequences for institutions that don't comply. Plus, we're digging into how the new conscientious objection law and medical freedom bill could impact healthcare in our state. And does Idaho need an official language amendment? It's Monday, March 24th. I'm Lindsay Van Allen, and this is what Boise's talking about. The legislative session is still going strong, so that means we need another week of Capitol chatter. And joining me this week is Boise State Public Radio's Capitol reporter, James Dawson. Thanks so much for being here, Jimmy.
Lindsay, hello. Happy Monday.
There's a lot happening. There's a lot moving quickly. This is the point in the session where, they're trying to get things done, seemingly. And something that has really started to kind of take off is a bill from Representative Barbara Ahart that would limit access to people in bathrooms. Now, I don't want to sugarcoat this. Specifically, it's targeting which bathrooms trans people in the state could use. That's the intent behind this bill. Can you let us know kind of what's going on and how quickly is this moving, or what are the next steps with this? How aware should people be about this?
Yeah, so this bill would apply to three specific areas. We're talking prisons and county jails. We're talking domestic violence shelters and public colleges and universities. So this bill has been in the works for a decent amount of time. This session, there was a previous version of it that didn't move forward. This one did pass the House already, and in a Senate committee last week, it got sent to the Senate floor for possible amendments. Basically, Representative Ahart says that she needs to kind of tweak the language a little bit so that opposite sex correctional officers in county jails and state prisons can, go into the opposite sex's, cells, for example, or the restrooms if they need to enforce something. That's kind of like the overall tenor of those amendments. So the thing that got brought up in committee, though, in the Senate last week was, this is basically going to be the morality police. The state's going to be the morality police for colleges and universities because, if you're a heterosexual couple, you couldn't have your partner stay over, spend the night, or even have them use your dorm bathroom. And it kind of reminded me of the BYU Honor Code, right?
I was about to say, y'all are about to have my BYU Idaho experience. I can speak on that and the disaster that is. So,
Lindsay, is it true that there is a line in the girls' dorms and apartments, like there's an actual physical line that, is visible that dudes cannot pass?
Yes. Yep. It was the way that they designed the apartments. You would have the living room and kitchen, and then there would be a wall with a door, usually, that it was understood no man, no boy can go past that line, no matter what. Like, if you have guys over and they're like, I am actually going to have like a bathroom emergency, you'd have to be like, I'm so sorry. You have to walk outside down to the common area for the apartment complex or the dorm. You can't go in the bathroom. And we had, depending on what roommates I had, there were a lot of, because I don't know, I didn't care. Like, you gotta pee, you gotta pee. Like, please just, don't make a mess.
Wash your hands.
Yeah, wash your hands, don't make a mess. But different roommates would feel differently about it. And so it would cause huge fights of like, should we tell the bishop? Should we tell the RA? Like, do we need to have a punishment? Like, lots of different feelings about it, but it very much became everybody is like morally policing each other. Like it's a very weird, toxic system for college kids. And as we say kids, but they're adults, college adults, to be policing who uses a bathroom or who uses a bedroom. I think it's really interesting that the state might adopt it, because even as an LDS person who was raised LDS, I went to college and I was like, this is ridiculous. This is frankly ridiculous. And so I guess maybe that would work to the favor of, once they implement this bill and all the college adults are like, what are you doing? This is insane. Maybe then there would be pushback. But who knows? Who knows with this legislature?
Do you have a roommate ever narc on you for that? Letting a boy go to the bathroom?
Oh, Jimmy, this could be such a huge conversation. um, yes, because when I was dating my now husband, for Valentine's Day, he went back into my bedroom and left me a teddy bear and some candy and some flowers or something. And one of my roommates stopped me and said, if that happens again, like if he goes back there, that made me deeply uncomfortable. I will tell the bishop, and I will tell him that you have broken honor code. So yes, I have so many stories about how ridiculous this is, but it, and that I'm taking that from my, cis privileged area of saying like, this was ridiculous as a college student. I can't even imagine how trans people in the state are feeling, where there's already a lot of tension around them using the bathroom and what bathroom they're going to use and what's going to happen when they use the bathroom. And now you make it against the law. And isn't there a lawsuit mechanism behind this also to further make sure that implementation happens?
Yeah, so essentially the areas that I mentioned, the prisons, jails, domestic violence shelters, and public colleges and universities, they have to basically develop policies around this, and they have to take, quote, reasonable steps to prevent, people of the opposite gender using these gender-specific areas, whether it be, a sleeping quarters or a bathroom, etc. So if, say one of them violates that, then someone brings that to civil court and can sue, saying that they weren't taking reasonable enough steps to do so. And since you brought up the backlash from the trans community, we had several transgender people speak during last week's hearing, basically saying that, if they're forced to use the bathroom of their sex assigned at birth, then they're basically in line for potential violence and getting threats to their safety, which Representative Ehart said was basically the opposite, saying, trans people are a threat to the other gender, in the bathrooms that that align with their gender identity, right? Which is not borne out by the data.
I've been a woman all of my life, and never once. I know that I have used the bathroom the same time that trans people have used the bathroom. I walk into the stall, I do what I do, I wash my hands, I leave. I've never been made uncomfortable in the slightest, but especially when trans women are forced to use the bathroom of their gender assigned at birth, there's a lot of data that shows that they are in danger and at risk.
Well, yeah, one of the, examples that Representative Ehart also says is, what about the woman who goes to freshman year in college, she gets unpacked at her dorm, and then suddenly she has a trans roommate. She said, that's not fair, quote. No matter how you feel about that, colleges in Idaho already have policies saying we will not put you in those situations unless you say that you want to be part of gender inclusive housing, which did not get brought up during the hearing. So moving forward, it's on the Senate floor for possible amendments. Could get pulled out before it gets amended. Who knows? Could be left there to die. Lots of different possibilities. But if those amendments do get tacked on, it would have to go back to the House to get approval before it would go to the governor's desk.
This episode is brought to you by Prime Video. In the small town of Holland, Michigan, nothing is ever what it seems. Behind the tulip festivals and pretty houses lay dark secrets that threaten to tear a marriage apart. Nicole Kidman stars in this darkly twisted thriller about a wife and mother whose quest to uncover her husband's secrets may get her more than she bargained for. Holland, streaming on Prime Video March 27th.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place for changes big and small. Loud or quiet, find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay. Things, people, love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
After that conversation, I'm looking to cleanse my palate a little bit with our pass amend table segment. So what bills do I have to sort through today?
I've got three of the finest choices that you've ever heard, Lindsay. So, I'm going to start with your favorite because we've got another one from your best friend, Senator Tammy Nichols from Middleton.
Oh,
yes.
Tammy.
And I don't do this to either torment you or make fun of the senator. I just know that you two have a very contentious relationship. So it's really fun to bring these proposals up. So this one is her latest attempt to try to basically tell HOAs F off. You cannot regulate whether someone has chickens in their backyard. If your property is at least on a quarter of an acre. Now, this bill did get held in committee again. She's tried multiple times. HOA is a very have a very powerful lobbying presence in the state house. So, okay, there's that one. Then you have the now amended childcare daycare ratios. They put the ratios back in. Previously, they said basically daycares you can do whatever you want within federal reason or state reasons, and that local governments cannot make daycare regulation any more strict than the state. They put some ratios back in. They're less than what they are currently, but not by much. Then we have a constitutional amendment to make English the official language of the state of Idaho. And this passed the Senate State Affairs Committee on Friday morning. So it's going to the Senate floor. It's already passed the House.
Oh, Jimmy, it is getting hard to believe that the Tammy bills aren't targeted. I'm going to pass Tammy's chicken bill, but I got to let you know this is bad for my mental health. And I truly work, it's bad for me when I have to, out of the bunch I get, that her bill is the one where I'm like, yeah, we could pass that, whatever, that's fine.
Yeah, okay, so we know you hate HOAs, so that one's passing.
And I do lightly hate them. So, all right, I guess if Tammy and I share a hate of the HOAs, okay, all right, I guess, whatever. There are worse things in the world. Okay, I am going to not pass. I'm going to table the childcare bill because so many childcare advocates spoke out against that, said that it was terrible and awful. And even with the ratios back in, they're against it. And it really, the group behind it, Wonder School, is trying to sell curriculum. And, they've been pushing this bill, or not, they sell curriculum, but also software for companies who do daycare. So I just feel like if the people in the industry are saying, please don't change this, and a group that sells something is trying to change it, I'm always suspicious about that. So I would table that bill. And then the constitutional amendment to make Idaho's official language English, I would amend that. This one's really a fun one to potentially amend with my amendy powers, because I would have it make Idaho's official language English, but only on even days of the month. And then Spanish would be the official language on odd days. And so I feel like that's fair. I feel like if we're going to, is this really an issue? Is this like such a big problem that people are going into meetings and government buildings and like it's an issue? We haven't at this moment passed a budget. So anyway, that's how I would amend it. Half the days English, half the days Spanish. If we're going to wade into those waters, let's play ball.
Do you know Spanish?
Sure don't, but wouldn't that be fun? I'd be really forced to learn, and that'd probably better me. That'd be good for me. So it'd be I'm going to look at this with a growth mindset, Jimmy.
Yeah, bring some more corporate speak into this. Let's synergize our silos while we break them down.
Yep. Nope. That's how maybe that's how I'm coping is the sarcastic corporate language. All right, Jimmy, this week I saved something I feel strongly about for last, and that would be a couple of bills that are similar. One is the new health conscience law. So that was just signed by the governor. And then there's also a medical freedom bill. Can you take a minute to just break down what these two, what the law is, what the bill is, and what it would mean?
Yeah, let's start with the law first, since it is, as you said, now law. Basically, any of these staff members who are within that healthcare setting can say that they have, an objection based on their deeply held personal beliefs about, whatever the treatment happens to be, whether that's, a blood transfusion. Let's say you're a Jehovah's Witness or another religion that doesn't believe in blood transfusions. Certainly HIV care, abortions, obviously, but birth control, things like things like this could be caught in this web, right? Basically go back to the days where pharmacists can say, I'm not going to prescribe birth controls. And if they're in a small town with no other pharmacy, then the women there would have to find another way to get their birth control prescriptions. This is something building on a law that was passed a year or two ago that kind of gave these similar protections to mental health counselors, basically saying that you don't have to see any patients who are gay or have problems that really conflict with your deeply held personal beliefs. So that's the first one. This is law right now. The second one would be the medical freedom bill that we talked about. And if you were listening a few weeks ago and you heard us talk about performative hand washing, for example, that's where that phrase came from. This bill has been amended a couple times, but the gist of it is any employer would not be able to require their own personnel to get a quote unquote medical treatment. That means vaccines. That means, using a Band-Aid, masking up, whatever it happens to be, unless you're in like the healthcare setting where you get Medicaid and Medicare dollars. Or if you're a business like Micron, where you send people to travel to different countries and they have different vaccine requirements. But going beyond their own personnel, those private businesses also could not require any or refuse their service to anyone who, for example, has like boils on their face that are actively pussing and oozing, or someone with an active case of measles. Those examples got brought up on the House floor too. And under this bill, you could not refuse service to them.
So with that bill, what I'm really curious about, it was focused on the vaccines, and I know that is the big issue. But something that I don't think people think of is currently, if there is any question about, something might have happened with narcotics. And, so like when I worked on the floor, if something happened with narcotics and you use narcotics that day, they could require, even if you had accounted for your narcotics, they could require everyone to take a P test just to prove. Like, I think it's really iffy about whether they could compel that or not. And like, especially if I'm like, no, mine's accounted for, you can't do that. Which I wish that was not an issue, but that from time to time is an issue, that narcotics are being diverted, and that is a patient safety issue. And so I think in this focus of like, you can't compel people to do things, there are going to be unintended consequences. I am certain of it. And so that's what concerns me about that bill. And then the conscientious objection bill, oh, Jimmy, we could talk about this for like 7 episodes. I have so many feelings about this bill. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. This is my personal opinion as a nurse. I have a nursing license. I've worked as a nurse. If you cannot put aside how you personally feel about things to do your job in the medical field, you should not work in the medical field. That is part of the ethics of working in that field, is taking care of the patient according to what the patient wants and prefers. I don't think people in Idaho realize how widespread this is and how much you absolutely want your healthcare providers to not be able to conscientiously object to providing you healthcare. I mean, if you're, I can think of a dozen things in the ER. If you have a DUI, if you drunk drive and you get in a wreck, now the healthcare providers can be like, I think that makes you a terrible person. I'm not providing care for you. You know, like there are so many different little ways that this will affect people's healthcare, and everyone thinks it won't affect them until you run into a healthcare provider who suddenly doesn't share your beliefs and is going to object to giving you care. And that will contribute to a breakdown in healthcare. That's not going to make more healthcare workers want to come here. That is going to cause a breakdown in care.
How do you think that the administration at the big hospitals, I mean, at the Al's and the Lukes of the world, will handle this?
You know, I don't know, because if this law happens, they're going to have to make room for people to have these conscientious objections. And I think in the big hospitals, they're going to be able to find workarounds. The bigger issue is going to be these small hospitals, these rural hospitals where you have one pharmacist at the hospital. And if that pharmacist doesn't believe that, thinks that depression is caused by evil spirits and isn't going to give you medication, what are you supposed to do? What is that whole city supposed to do? Or if somebody's having a miscarriage and they don't believe in miscarriage care. I mean, even something as like, if you have a NICU nurse who's like, I don't know, you went into preterm labor and that must have been the will of God, I'm not resuscitating your baby. Like, what is supposed to happen? This is going to break down care for people in their time of need, which as a nurse is just heartbreaking for me and frustrating. So frustrating because it's so unnecessary. Anyway, I could go on and on and on. I have a lot of feelings, a lot of examples and analogies about the conscientious objection law, but the medical freedom bill, that is still moving through the legislature. If people feel strongly about that or want to get involved, Jimmy, what can they do, or what should they expect next?
They're going to have to call the governor's office. It passed both the House and Senate now, and it's making its way to the governor's desk through that huge bureaucratic process that takes forever. And once it hits his desk, he'll have 5 days to act on it, whether that's sign it, veto it, or let it pass into law without his signature.
That's all for today here on CityCast Boise. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe to our Hey Boise newsletter for more legislative updates. We'll be back tomorrow morning with the lowdown on why local breweries are going through a reckoning. You won't want to miss it.